when you play jazz, there comes a moment when the written music ends and the improvised solo begins. It's the jazz equivalent of the writer's blank page, the painter's empty canvas. It's an open space that has to be filled up with the best you can pull from inside yourself. Hi, I'm Marion McPartland. That beautiful muted trombone solo you just heard was by Melba Liston. She's not only an outstanding instrumentalist, but also an accomplished composer and arranger, and leader of her own 8-piece group. Every time Melba, or any jazz musician, takes a solo, it's like an autobiographical statement, a story about who you are and who you've listened to, even about the first time you felt that you had something to say, and that music might be the way to say it. This is the inner voice that comes through every time you take a solo. In this show, we will see some women, past and present, who found a way to express that inner voice by playing jazz. In the early days of jazz, women were often heard as singers and occasionally as pianists. But for women who wanted to play other instruments, such as sax or drums, the first real opportunity to be heard came with the all-women bands that formed during the big band era of the 30s and 40s. Most of these bands were considered novelty acts, but some of these bands could really swing. This was one of the best, the famous International Sweethearts of Rhythm, led by the dynamic Anna Mae Winburn. In its day, this band was considered by many to be on a par with the top male bands. These 16 women were a dedicated, committed group of musicians who could read with precision, blend into a beautiful ensemble sound, and when the time came, play a short solo that would fit right in with the music. This is Johnny Rice with a tight little solo, Bessie style. This is Viola Burnside, whose gutsy saxophone sound had people jumping in the aisles. Here's a swinging cornet solo. It's forceful, melodic, and excellently played. These are all strong players, fine instrumentalists, and standout soloists. Though to some extent the solo voices are muted, subordinated to the overall sound of the band, which was the style of the day. But the band as a whole had something to say. At a time when few people were taking female musicians seriously, these women were saying through their playing, "Hey, listen to us, we're good as the men, maybe better." The time of the all-women bands came to an end, along with the decline of the big bands in the late 40s, as musical styles and tastes changed. Small group jazz became the predominant sound. And for women jazz musicians, this meant even fewer opportunities to play.
Well, I started with Anna Mae Winburn, who was director of the Sweet Hearts of Rhythm. And she had about, the first time I went out was about a 12, 13-piece band. And then the second time was about 7, then it went down to 5. I played with a few other groups, and then I went out on my own and I had a group off and on for about 12 years.
Many women dropped out during this period, but not this woman, Willeen Barton. She followed whatever opportunities there were, going on the road, playing with other groups, but mostly creating her own opportunities by leading her own group. You can hear in Willeen's playing the big, warm tenor sounds of Ben Webster, Coleman Hawkins, and the other great jazz players she listened to in the 40s. But she also brings to her playing the foot-stomping, hard-driving sound of the rhythm and blues playing popular in the 50s. But these are only influences. The statement Willeen makes as she improvises on the old standard, "Pen is from heaven," is uniquely her own. Willeen's life hasn't been that easy. whether leading one's own group or going on the road with someone else's. Unless you're a headline attraction, the jobs can be few and far between, and the financial rewards are not always very great. In the 30s and 40s, even this path wasn't open to many women unless they could get immediate audience approval. So for some, this meant developing a commercial type act. This is Martha Davis, a master of boogie-woogie and stride piano, who, with her bass-playing husband, was billed as Martha Davis and Spouse.
Going up. Look out, partner. I hear you. Going up.
Martha obviously had fantastic chops, all the technique to play any sort of music she wanted to. She could have played straight jazz or classical piano with the best of them, but she really looks happy doing just what she's doing. I say more power to her. I think she's terrific. This is Joanne Brackeen, one of today's most powerful jazz pianists. The 40 years that separate Martha and Joanne have seen many changes in the opportunities open to women playing jazz. Joanne is able to pursue a career as a serious jazz artist in concert halls and clubs in America and throughout the world.